chart that shows the proportion of this population that's in federal prison. You can see federal prison used to be not that important, and still, well, I don't know, by international standards, that's a lot of people in prison, but compared to everything else, that's not a big deal. State prisons are really where it's at, and the people that are in local jails are there mostly for violating state law. There's a few people that are in local jail for violating city ordinances, but most of those people that are getting processed through jails are being processed through jails for something that's really being driven by the state. And jails tend to be, except in the previous presentation, entirely off of people's radars and things they want to talk about. And that really matters because of stuff like this. This is an overview of all the people that are in cages on a given night. And there is, a third of the people that are locked up in local jails. But a quarter of the total have not been convicted of anything. They are awaiting trial. They will be bailed out tonight, tomorrow, next week. Maybe they can't come up with $50, so they're going to stay in jail until their court hearing, until their third date, at which point they're going to plead guilty to time served and go. And then we got, you got a couple 100,000 people that are in prison directly for drugs. We got kids. There's 3,000 kids who are locked up for status offenses, for things that wouldn't be crimes if they were adults. They're locked up for. 11,000 kids violated some technical violation rule for their parole or probation, and they're locked up. So you want to change criminal justice policy and reduce the number of people in cages in this country? Pick a slice. You don't have to pick a lot of slices. Just pick one slice and make some changes. You change the bail laws in this country. You change the speed at which you process people through the criminal justice system. You can reduce this population by 400,000 people. And that's entirely without talking about the really big, important stuff, which is that you change how trials work and you change how the bail system works. You will change the outcome and you'll change the number of people who then get convicted. But we don't have to be so visionary. Let's just pick a slice. Pick any slice. And this extends way beyond just incarceration. And I could go and say, oh, let's talk about parole and probation and all that, and we could. I want to talk about the crazy thing that most states do. Most states have laws that say if you commit a drug offense within a certain distance of a school or a park or other places where kids congregate, you will get a longer mandatory sentence. In Massachusetts, until recently, it was 1,000 foot. In Connecticut, it's still 1,500 feet. This is a law that, I'm going to give the people that first started this nasty trend the benefit of the doubt that this was a good idea, had good intentions, and was race neutral in intent. Let's concede that for a moment. Let's just see how much law this makes sense. The assumption is anybody who's committing a drug offense within 1,000 feet of a school must be intending to involve children in this transaction. So I'm on the property line taking pictures of my co-author of this report. She's out at 100 feet. We can yell and scream and just barely hear each other. Well, at 250 feet, we've long since had to use cell phones to communicate. She's getting kind of hard to see, even though she's jumping up and down with a big white sign, unlike drug dealers who tend to be kind of subtle. 500 feet, she's really kind of invisible. And this was the flattest, straightest street we could find in western Massachusetts. We went back when the leaves were down because we wanted her to be as easy to see as possible. And you can see here, we've run out of street, and she's about 75 feet back in somebody's yard. And this is 1,000 feet. And in Connecticut, it's 1,500. In Connecticut, the law says the entire city, 94% of the people who live in the city of Hartford live in one of these sentencing enhancement zones. The only people who don't are the governor, and the governor's mansion on the richest street in town. Those folks are not living in a sentencing enhancement zone. So if you are accused of a drug charge in Hartford, you should just plead guilty. Because otherwise, you're going to be facing this longer mandatory minimum sentence. We did some research in Massachusetts. We're able to kind of quantify this, given the concentration that African Americans, Latinos are more likely to live in dense urban areas, and areas that are denser have more schools, which are then within a certain distance of more people, because that's what density means. Latinos are 37 times as likely to live in a sentencing enhancement zone in Massachusetts. This is a law that says, if you're Latino, just plead guilty. It doesn't have to be the intent, but that is the very obvious effect. And it took Massachusetts 20-something years to roll back their law. Connecticut, what's your problem? We're not even getting that far. And there's two easy things you can do. One is, let's say we want to protect kids from drugs. Well, why don't we enforce laws? First, in the first draft report we wrote, cities should pass laws that create special penalties for involving kids in the drug trade or for selling drugs to kids. Well, it turns out Massachusetts has one of them, has laws that do that, they just never use them. Because why use a scalpel when you can use a sledgehammer? And just say,